Hi, we're here to talk about the E-1 Treaty Trader Visa. This visa is a really good option for business owners or professionals who want to live and work in the United States, but don't have a family member or an employer sponsor to bring them here. The E-1 Treaty Trader Visa gives you some control to set your own path to a visa and a life in the United States. So let's talk about what it is and how you qualify. So first of all, I'm immigration attorney Kalani Hawks Villafranca. I guide my clients from all over the world through their U.S. immigration process, and that includes the E-1 Treaty Trader Visa, the E-2 Investment Visa, the T and NAFTA Visa, and any number of other kinds of visas for professionals around the world and their families. So today we're going to talk about the E-1 Treaty Trader Visa. What does that mean? So first of all, as the name implies, an E-1 Treaty Trader Visa is the product of a treaty between the United States and your home country. The Department of State maintains a list of countries that have treaties of commerce with the United States. And if you are from any of those countries, then you could be eligible for an E-1 Treaty Trader Visa. So the first thing to do is to figure out if you're from one of those countries. The list is really long and includes a ton of countries like Mexico, Spain, Canada, the United Kingdom, and many, many others, Turkey. There are a ton. So the first thing you want to do is figure out if your country is on that list. If it is, the next thing we need to do is see, do you have a U.S. business? To qualify for these visas, you're going to have to show trade in goods or services between the United States and your home country. The whole purpose of these treaties is to encourage international trade and economic development between the United States and the country that it has the treaty with. In this case, that's your home country because you're the one asking for the visa. So we have to figure out, does your country have a visa treaty with the United States? If it does, check. Number two, do you have a business that engages in the trade of goods or services between the United States and your home country? And that's really the whole thing we're going to talk about with the E-1 Treaty Trader Visa. We got to prove trades in goods or services. And if we can, you can be eligible for an E-1 visa, which is great. The E-1 visa is really fantastic because it allows you to come and live and work legally in the United States while you're working in that E-1 business that does the trade with your home country. And you can renew the E-1 visa indefinitely as long as you're continuing to be eligible. Your spouse can get a work permit and your children can live here lawfully and go to school, public school in the United States while you're on your E-1 status. So it can be really good for your whole family. So first, we know you got to have a treaty. Then we know you have to engage in trade. So what does that mean? It's really important to know that for an E-1 Treaty Trader Visa, both goods and services can count for trade. The US government clarified this in the last 5 to 10 years because as the world economy changes, many businesses are focused not on an exchange of goods, but on an exchange of services. And the law was written a long time ago when that wasn't true. So the government has clarified more recently that an international exchange of services does in fact qualify you for an E-1 Treaty Trader Visa. And that's phenomenal because it opens the door to so many businesses and so many industries. And this is really critical because a lot of times service-based industries are not expensive to start. You don't need a huge investment of funds up front. You don't need to employ a ton of people in the United States. And what that means is that sometimes it may be really hard for you to qualify for an E-2 visa. You may have heard about an E-2 visa. That is for investors who have a US-based business and invest a lot of money in their US business. But say you have a service company and you only need $10,000 to start your service company in the US, that's probably not going to qualify you for an E-2 visa. But if you can show that you have trade with your home country, you might qualify for an E-1 visa, which is why I want to talk about this one today. It can be a really good opportunity for you. Okay, so what is trade? To qualify for your E-1 visa, we have to show that there's a US-based business owned by nationals from the home country. So let's say Mexico, because that's where many of my clients are from. So we have a US-based business, say it's an LLC incorporated in Texas, which is true for many of my clients. And there are two owners of that LLC, and they're both from Mexico. Then we know 100% of the ownership of the Texas company are Mexican citizens, which means the company is Mexican for immigration purposes. Okay, great. So now you have a company from the treaty country, Mexico. Next, we show that that US-based company owned by Mexicans is trading between the US and Mexico. That either means they're sending goods across the border or services across the border. What does it look like to send services across the border? Well, it could look like the US-based business sells service products to customers in the US, and then they contract the actual IT labor or software services to their partner company in Mexico. And so the work is actually done in Mexico. And that's a trade of services across the border. So that kind of trade would qualify for an E-1 visa for the people who are in the US working in that US business that is engaging in the trade. To qualify for an E-1 treaty trader visa, you have to have trade between the United States and your home country, and the trade with your home country has to be at least 50% of all the trade that you do. So this is where you could get in trouble, right? Say you have a business and it's an import-export business, but you don't just export to your home country, you export to countries worldwide from the United States. Well, that's phenomenal. It may be a really good business, but it probably won't qualify you for an E-1 treaty trader visa if most of your trade isn't with your home country. If that's the case, then we're going to talk to you about an E-2 visa, and we're going to see if we can get your visa to live and work in the US on your US company based on investment in your US business, the amount of money you've spent in your business, and work on a visa for you that way, because you won't be able to qualify for an E-1 if more than 50% of your trade is not with your home country. Because remember, these E-1 visas are built on treaties between the US and the home country, the entire purpose of which is to encourage trade between the two countries. So we have to show a trade in goods or services, and we have to show that at least 50% of that trade is going between the United States and your home country. We also have to show that the trade is substantial, which means it's not just one contract that happened one time. It has to already exist, it has to be ongoing, and it has to be meaningful, meaning that it has to really show there's an active exchange of goods and services that are supporting businesses and work, and that it's ongoing in order to get your visa. The E-1 treaty trader visa is not a speculative, forward-looking visa. You cannot get an E-1 visa to come to the US and investigate potential trade opportunities. That is not how it works. To get your E-1 treaty trader visa, you must already have an existing trade, ongoing trade between the United States and your home country. You have to be able to show over time the volume of trade, the number of trade deals that have happened, the contracts in place, and why you expect that to continue to be able to be eligible for your E-1 treaty trader visa. But many of you are. Many of you already have businesses. You are already doing work trading between the US and your home country, or if not, you're about to start. And I want you to know that this kind of visa is available for you and could be a really, really good fit for your US-based business. So who can get the E-1 treaty trader visa? We know we need a treaty between the US and your home country. We need a US-based business owned by nationals from your home country. And we need trade between the US business and your home country. Now, we have all those things. Who gets to apply for a visa? Well, the owner of the E-1 business in the United States could apply for a visa. So if you have at least 50% ownership in the US business that's doing trade between the US and your home country, you can qualify as an E-1 treaty trader. However, those are not the only people who can apply. And often for an E-1 treaty trader visa, we're going to see employees wanting to apply, and that's totally possible. With an E-1 visa, you can bring not just the owner of the business, but also employees, if that employee is either an executive or supervisory person in the US business, or they are someone who has a skill that is essential to the functioning of the business. And keep in mind, the E-1 treaty trader is based on these treaties between the US and your home country, so you can only bring employees from abroad who have the same nationality. So if you have a Mexican business owned by Mexicans, it's a US business owned by Mexicans, and you're doing trade with Mexico, then the owner of the business could come on a treaty trader visa, and Mexican individuals who are employees could come to the US and work in the E-1 business. But you couldn't say bring an employee from Saudi Arabia or Russia, because they don't share the nationality of the business and the trade partnership. Because remember, these are all visas based on trade treaties. So you can get your E-1 visa if you are the owner, more than 50% of the US-based business that engages in trade with your home country. If you are an executive or supervisor in that business, or you are an employee with an essential skill. What's an essential skill? So it could be any number of things. Say that your business specializes in a proprietary product or service that was created in your home country. That means that there probably isn't anybody in the US who really understands that product or service, because nobody in the US is doing this work. It's created in your home country. You're the one who did it. You're bringing it to the US. The people with the knowledge of that proprietary product or skill are going to be essential to your business, because you can't find anybody in the US to do it. Similarly, say you're an Italian chef. You've opened an Italian restaurant in the US, and you're going to start trading in sort of cooking products or services between the US and Italy. An Italian chef who knows Italian cooking methods, who's from Italy, is probably going to be an essential skilled employee for your business, because it may be hard to find that person in the US based on what you need for your particular business. So that's what it means to be an essential employee for an E-1 purpose. Okay, so now I want to give a brief recap of what the E-1 visa is and who qualifies, and then I want to talk about why it's better than the E-2 for some people. So to qualify for an E-1 treaty trader visa, you have to know that there is a treaty between your country and the United States that creates this visa. Then you have to have a US-based business owned by people from your home country, at least 50%. Then we have to show the US-based business is engaging in trade between the United States and your home country, and that trades at least 50% of the total trade volume for your US company. If all of those things are true, whether the trade is goods or services, either one works, then we can apply for an E-1 treaty trader visa for the owner, executive, or essential employee from your US-based business to come to the US and engage in trade with your home country. This is phenomenal, because what I have not mentioned in this discussion is having to invest a lot of money, employ a bunch of people in the US, or show that you're going to be super profitable, because none of those things are required for the E-1 visa. Now, a lot of foreign nationals are familiar with the E-2 investor visa, and they think about going that route for their US business, but it has some different requirements. Now, with an E-2 investor visa, you have to show that you have invested a substantial sum of money, which is usually around $100,000, in order to qualify for the visa. You have to show also that you're going to have a positive economic impact on the US because of the functioning of your US business, which usually means having to show that you're going to employ US workers. And lastly, to get an E-2 investor visa, you have to show that over time, over about 5 years, your business is going to produce a ton of profit, well above just the money needed to pay the salaries and to support the living conditions of the foreign investor and the employees of the company. So that can be a high bar, right? You have to make sure that your business is going to be super profitable and super successful to get your E-2 visa and to continue to renew it. But we don't have these same considerations for an E-1 visa. So if your business qualifies for an E-1, it may also qualify for an E-2, but between the two, you may want to think about an E-1 if you don't want to have to worry about employing US workers, investing a certain required amount of money, or proving long-term high profitability for your business, because that's not required for an E-1. For an E-1, your focus is really not on investment. It is instead on trade. So if you feel confident that the work you're going to do in the US creates trade in goods or services between the US and your home country, then an E-1 treaty trader visa is probably a really good option for you. And I would love to talk to you more about it. So if this seems interesting to you, or you're curious to know if you might qualify, give me a call. My phone number is 512-675-2945. We can have a quick intro call, and I can give you a high-level overview of the visas that might be a good fit for you, your family, and your business in the United States, to see if this is something that might be worth your while. Because if you're thinking about this, if you're thinking about moving to the US, I want to really encourage you to take the time to think about it properly. Really understand all your options. Don't just go with the first one that you researched and found, or that your friend did and you thought is okay for you too. Everybody's case is unique. Everybody's life is unique. And if you're thinking about living and working in the US, I want you to think about all your options. And that includes the E-1 treaty trader visa, the E-2 investor visa, the TN visa if you're from Mexico or Canada. An O visa could be an option for you. There's so many opportunities for professionals to live and work in the US, and the E-1 is just one of the many. So give me a call, 512-675-2945, and we can get you started on your path to move to the US and start your life here. It's been a pleasure, as always, talking to you. I'll see you next week. Bye.